My parents came back for me 18 years late. They arrived at my grandmother's funeral in a black SUV, wearing expensive clothes and bringing a son I had not seen since he was a baby. My mother looked at me for 3 seconds. Then she looked past me at Grandma's house. "Is the property still in her name?" she whispered. That was her first question. Not, "How are you?" Not, "Did Grandma suffer?" Not even, "Do you remember me?" She wanted the house. The next morning, my father entered the lawyer's office and sat down as if he already owned it. Then, the lawyer placed a faded yellow suitcase on the table. One wheel was missing. A purple rabbit sticker was peeling from the side. My name was still written across the handle in my 7-year-old handwriting. I knew that suitcase. It was the one my parents had left beside me when they promised to return on Sunday. Rose left the house, the surrounding land and her savings to Claire, the lawyer announced. To Linda and Mark, she left this. My father laughed. My mother didn't. She had noticed the old note tied around the handle. Claire's things. Back Sunday. Grandma had written one sentence beneath it. You were only 18 years late. The lawyer opened the suitcase and removed a sealed blue envelope. My mother saw the handwriting and threw herself across the table. Don't open that. Her 19-year-old son jumped from his chair. Why? He demanded. What does it say? The envelope contained proof that my parents had lied about me for 18 years. They had told their son that I was dead, and that was only the first secret Grandma had saved for this moment. Before that meeting ended, my father would threaten to take me to court. My mother would offer to become my mother again if I gave her half the house. And Grandma's final instruction would force them to choose between walking away with nothing or leaving with a debt large enough to destroy them. But to understand why that old yellow suitcase terrified my mother, you need to know what happened on the Friday they left it at Grandma's door. I was 7 years old. My mother told me we were visiting Grandma Rose for the weekend. She packed 3 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, and my stuffed rabbit Daisy inside the yellow suitcase. I remember asking why I needed so many clothes for 2 nights. In case you spill something, she answered. My father never switched off the car. He carried my suitcase onto Grandma's porch while the engine continued running behind him. My baby brother Daniel was strapped inside his car seat. He was 10 months old. I leaned through the open car door and kissed his forehead. Is Daniel staying too? I asked. No, Mom said. The baby needs me. I didn't understand why I didn't need her. Grandma opened the front door wearing her gardening gloves. She looked at my suitcase. Then, she looked at my parents. What is this? We need 2 nights, my father said. We have meetings about Mark's new job, and the hotel won't be good for Claire. You didn't call me. It came together quickly. Grandma looked at my mother. Linda, my mother wouldn't meet her eyes. We'll be back Sunday before dinner. I hugged Mom around the waist. Her body felt stiff. Can we get pizza when you come back? Of course. Promise? I promise. My father touched the top of my head. Be good for Grandma. Then they got into the car. Daniel began crying as they pulled away. I stood beside Grandma and waved until the car disappeared. That Sunday, I put on my favorite red shoes before breakfast. I drew a sign that said "Welcome Home" and taped it to the porch railing. At 4 o'clock, I carried my yellow suitcase outside. At 5, Grandma told me dinner was ready. At home or here? I asked. Here, sweetheart. They're bringing pizza. Grandma looked toward the empty road. We can keep it warm. At 6, it began raining. At 7, Grandma brought me a blanket. At 8, she carried my suitcase back inside. I stayed on the porch. They promised. I know. What if they can't see the house in the rain? They know where I live. At 8:17, Grandma called their number again. This time, I heard a recorded voice say the number was no longer in service. Grandma's face changed. She tried to hide it from me. Maybe they changed phones. Both of them? She didn't answer. I fell asleep on the sofa wearing my red shoes. When I woke up Monday morning, my parents still had not returned. A letter arrived 11 days later. My mother had written only 4 lines. Things are more complicated than expected. Claire is safe with you. Please keep her until we are settled. We will call soon. Inside were temporary guardianship papers. There was no return address. There was no message for me. And they did not call soon. Grandma contacted my father's old employer. He had resigned 3 weeks earlier. She called every relative she could think of. Nobody knew where my parents had gone. Or at least, nobody admitted it. For months, I believed every car slowing near the house belonged to them. Every Sunday, I wore my red shoes. Every Sunday, I placed my suitcase near the door. Then winter came, and the shoes became too small. Grandma found me trying to force my feet into them one morning. I had tears running down my face. If I'm not ready, they might leave again, I said. Grandma sat on the floor in front of me. If they return, they will wait for you. They didn't wait last time. Pain moved across her face. No, she said. They didn't. Was I bad? Grandma took both my hands. Listen carefully, Claire. Children do not cause adults to fail them. But they took Daniel. I know, they wanted him. Grandma pulled me into her arms. There is nothing wrong with you. Then why didn't they take me too? She held me tighter, but she had no answer. Grandma eventually received permanent guardianship. My parents did not attend the hearing. They mailed their signatures from another state and gave up responsibility for me without speaking to me once. Grandma never had much money. The house was old, the roof leaked above the upstairs bathroom, and the pipes made strange sounds every winter. But I never went hungry. Every morning, Grandma packed my lunch and placed a note inside. Sometimes it said, "You are brave." Sometimes, "You are loved." And sometimes, "Don't trade your cookie for Megan's raisins again." That is a terrible deal. Grandma came to every school play. She sat through every parent meeting. When my school held a father-daughter dance, she wore Grandpa's old tie and danced with me until both of us were laughing. She never made me feel like a burden, but she could not stop me from waiting. On my 8th birthday, I thought my parents would call. On my 9th, I expected a card. On my 10th, I stopped telling anyone I expected anything. Then, when I was 14, I found them. Our school had finally received new computers. During lunch, I searched for my father's name. A business page appeared. There was a photograph of my parents standing outside a beautiful house. Daniel stood between them. He was 8 years old and holding a new bicycle. The caption read, "Nothing matters more than family." I stared at those words until the screen became blurry. They had not disappeared. They were not homeless. They were not trapped somewhere trying to return to me. They lived less than 4 hours away. My mother had short hair now. My father was heavier. Daniel had the same brown eyes I remembered from his crib. I found a phone number beneath the photograph. Then I called it. My mother answered. "Hello?" For a second, I couldn't speak. "Mom?" The line became silent. Then she said my name. Not warmly, not with happiness, like she had heard something she hoped never to hear again. "Claire?" My hands began shaking. "Where did you get this number?" "I found Dad's company. Does Rose know you're calling?" "No," she exhaled. "This isn't a good time. I've been waiting." "What?" "You said you would come back on Sunday." Another silence followed. Then my mother said, "You're doing well with Grandma. How do you know? She keeps us informed. Why don't you answer her?" Things became complicated. "You live 4 hours away. You're too young to understand. I'm 14. "Exactly. Does Daniel know about me?" My mother's voice changed. "Do not contact him. He's my brother." "Claire, listen to me. Daniel has a stable life." Appearing suddenly would confuse him. "What did you tell him?" "That is none of your concern. I'm his sister. You live with Rose. That is your family now." The words hit harder than shouting would have. Are you coming back for me? My mother didn't answer. I heard my father speaking in the background. Then the call ended. I called again. She had blocked the number. Grandma found me sitting on the kitchen floor. I showed her the photograph. Nothing matters more than family, I read aloud, except me. Grandma sat beside me. I am sorry. You knew where they were? Not until recently. Did you tell them to stay away? No. Did they ever ask for me? Grandma's eyes filled with tears. That was my answer. I never called them again. Years passed. I finished school and studied to become an elementary school teacher. I could have moved away, but I stayed near Grandma. Not because I was still waiting, because she had stayed for me. Together, we repaired the house little by little. We painted the kitchen yellow. I fixed the broken porch railing. Grandma planted white roses beneath my old bedroom window. Then, property developers began buying land around our town. Grandma's house stood on 12 acres near a new road project. What had once been an aging family home suddenly became extremely valuable. A developer offered Grandma nearly $2 million. She rejected it. You could buy a new house, I told her. I already have a house. One without a leaking roof. The roof doesn't leak anymore. You fixed it. You could travel. I hate airports. You could at least think about it. Grandma looked around the kitchen. A house is not valuable because someone offers money for it. What makes it valuable? What happened inside it? She looked at me. This house taught a frightened little girl that being left was not the same as being worthless. I won't sell that to someone who wants to turn it into a parking lot. News of the offer somehow reached my parents. My father emailed Grandma for the first time in nearly 4 years. He did not ask about me. He wrote, I heard you received an offer for the property. Before making any decisions, remember that Linda is your only daughter. This land should remain a family asset. Grandma printed the email. She circled the word family. Then she laughed. They always remember that word when property is involved. A few months later, Grandma's heart began failing. She grew tired more easily, but her mind remained sharp. One afternoon, I found her sitting at the kitchen table with her lawyer, Elena Alvarez. The yellow suitcase was between them. I had not seen it in years. Why do you still have that? I asked. Grandma placed her hand over mine. Because one day they may come back. They won't. They will when they hear I am gone. The thought made me angry. They don't know you're sick. They know I stopped answering their questions about the house. Grandma waited until Elena left. Then she said, Promise me something. What? If your parents return, listen carefully to what they ask for before you listen to what they call you. I don't care what they call me. Grandma gave me a sad smile. There is still a 7-year-old inside you who wants her mother to come back. I looked away. That little girl is gone. No, she grew up. That is different. Grandma squeezed my hand. Be gentle with her. But do not let her give away your future just because someone finally calls her daughter. Grandma died 6 weeks later. I was holding her hand. Her last words were not about the property. They were, you were never difficult to love. 3 days after her death, my parents arrived. My mother stepped out of the black SUV first. My father followed. Then, Daniel emerged from the back seat. He was 19 now. Tall, nervous, completely innocent of what our parents had done. My mother walked toward me with her arms open. Claire, sweetheart. I stepped back. She slowly lowered her arms. You've grown. That happens in 18 years. My father looked at the house. It needs work. It needed parents too, I said. Grandma handled both. Daniel stared at me. My mother had apparently told him I was a distant relative. Then he noticed an old family photograph displayed near the funeral entrance. It showed my parents, baby Daniel and me. He pointed at it. Mom, who is that girl holding me? My mother's face tightened. We'll explain later. Daniel looked at me again. Something inside him had already begun to understand. My mother pulled me aside before the funeral. This is painful for all of us. You met Grandma twice in 18 years. She was still my mother. And I was still your daughter. We made mistakes. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. You forgot a person. Her eyes hardened. Then, she looked over my shoulder at the house. Is the property still in Rose's name? That was when I knew Grandma had been right. They had not returned for me. They had come for the house. After the funeral, my parents began acting as though they belonged there. My father walked through the garden, calculating what the land might be worth. My mother opened cupboards and complained that Grandma had kept too many old things. They spoke about selling before anyone had read the will. We should divide everything fairly, my father told me. Between whom? You and your mother. Grandma had a lawyer. Lawyers complicate family matters. My mother touched my hand. When this is over, perhaps you can visit us. We have a beautiful guest room. A guest room. After 18 years, my mother had finally found a place for me. The following morning, we entered Elena Alvarez's office. My parents sat together. Daniel sat at the far end of the table. Elena began reading. Grandma left a small donation to the local library. She left her jewelry to me. She left money for scholarships at my school. Then, Elena said, "The house, the land and all remaining assets are left entirely to Claire Bennett." My father pushed back his chair. "That is impossible." My mother turned pale. She manipulated Rose. Elena remained calm. Mrs. Bennett completed multiple medical evaluations confirming that she was of sound mind. "We will contest it," my father said. "There is more." Elena placed the yellow suitcase on the table. To Linda and Mark, Rose left this suitcase and its contents. My father laughed bitterly. "What is this supposed to be?" My mother saw the note. "Claire's things, back Sunday." Grandma's handwriting appeared beneath it. You were only 18 years late." Elena opened the suitcase. Inside were my childhood clothes, my red shoes. My stuffed rabbit, Daisy, the welcome home sign I had made on that first Sunday. And the blue envelope. My mother tried to grab it. "Don't open that." Elena pulled it away. Daniel stood. "What is in there?" My father pointed at him. "Sit down." "No, she was holding me in that photograph. Who is she?" I looked directly at him. "I'm your sister." Daniel stared at our parents. "You told me she died." My mother shook her head. "We told you there had been another child. You misunderstood." "No, you said my sister died before I was old enough to remember her." Elena opened the envelope. Inside was a letter my parents had sent Grandma when I was 15. She read it aloud. "Stop sending photographs of Claire. Daniel believes she died, and we will not destroy his life by changing that story now. Claire is settled with you. Please let our family move forward." Daniel looked as if someone had struck him. "You wrote that?" My mother began crying. "We were protecting you. From my own sister? You were young. So was she." Elena switched on the television mounted on the office wall. Grandma appeared on the screen, sitting in her yellow kitchen. For one terrible second, I forgot she was gone. Then, she began speaking. "Claire, if you are watching this, you were brave enough to enter a room with the people who taught you to wait." I covered my mouth. Grandma continued. "Linda and Mark, you did not lose your daughter. You left her. I called you 63 times during the first year. I sent school photographs, report cards and invitations. I offered to pay for every journey if you would visit her." My father looked toward the door. "The only times you answered quickly," Grandma said, "were when you needed money." My mother whispered, "Turn this off." "No," Daniel said. Grandma looked straight into the camera. "You may tell Claire that you were young. You may tell her you were struggling." Both were true at first. Daniel was sick, Mark had lost his job, and Claire was safe with me. My mother nodded desperately. "See?" She understood. Then Grandma continued. "But hardship explains one Sunday. It does not explain 18 years. The room became silent. You found work. You bought a house. You took vacations. You celebrated Daniel's birthdays. You had thousands of chances to return for Claire, and every year you chose not to. I looked at my mother. Why? She wiped her face. We thought moving you again would hurt you. You didn't even visit. We were ashamed. You could have been ashamed in the same room as me. My father leaned forward. You had a good life here. Better than we could have given you. Then why did you keep Daniel? He was a baby. So I was old enough to abandon? That isn't what I said. It is what you did. My mother reached for me. We loved you. I moved my hand away. You loved knowing I was somewhere safe. That is not the same as loving me. On the screen, Grandma lifted another file. There is one final financial matter. My father's face changed. Elena placed 6 signed documents on the table. These are promissory notes, she explained. Over 14 years, Rose loaned Linda and Mark a total of $96,000. I stared at my parents. They had taken money from the woman raising the child they had abandoned. My father stood. Those were family gifts. Each document carries your signature, Elena said. Each identifies the money as a loan. My mother looked at me. We had business problems. You had grandma problems, I said. You remembered her whenever you needed something. My father pointed at the television. This is revenge. Rose turned our daughter against us, and now she is trying to destroy us from the grave. Grandma's recording continued as if she had heard him. If Mark threatens to contest my will, Elena will explain my final instruction. Elena folded her hands. If you accept the will and sign a waiver promising not to challenge it, the estate will forgive the entire debt. My father stopped moving. If you contest the will, Elena continued, the estate is instructed to collect the principal, interest, and legal costs. My mother stared at the documents. How much with interest? More than $130,000. My father slowly sat down. Grandma had given them a choice. They could walk away with nothing, or they could fight for my house and risk losing far more. My mother turned toward me. You can stop this. What do you want me to do? Give us half the property. Daniel stared at her. Mom, stay out of this. She took both my hands before I could move away. Claire, we can begin again. We can finally be a family. For one dangerous second, I wanted to believe her. I imagined Christmas at their house. I imagined hearing my mother call me her daughter without shame. I imagined meeting people who had known her for years and watching her introduce me. The 7-year-old inside me stepped onto that rainy porch again. She wanted to open the door. Then Elena handed me a small white envelope. Your grandmother asked me to give you this before you made any decisions. Inside was a handwritten note. Claire, love offered only after a property valuation is not love. Ask them whether they would have returned if the house were worthless. Then, believe their silence. I looked at my mother. If the developer had never offered money, would you be here? We're here because Grandma died. You didn't come when she was sick. We didn't know. She wrote to you. My mother looked at my father. I asked again. If this house were falling apart and the land were worth nothing, would you have come back for me? Neither of them answered. Their silence lasted only a few seconds. But it finished what 18 years had started. I pulled my hands away. You don't want a daughter. That isn't true, my mother said. You want an inheritance that requires you to pretend you have one. My father struck the table with his palm. That property belonged to Linda's family before you were born. So did I. He stared at me. You will regret choosing a dead woman over your living parents. I stood. She chose me while she was alive. You didn't. Daniel turned toward them. Did you ever plan to tell me? My mother tried to touch him. We wanted to protect your childhood. You protected your image. Daniel, you made me an only child by pretending my sister was dead. We gave you everything, and you left her with a suitcase. He looked at me. I'm sorry. You didn't do this. But I had them. His voice broke. I had both of them every day, and you were waiting. My mother grabbed her handbag. We are leaving. She pointed toward Daniel. Come with us. He didn't move. Daniel. I came in your car, he said. I'll find another way home. My parents walked toward the door. My mother paused beside the yellow suitcase. Keep your garbage. I placed my hand on its handle. No, Grandma left this to you. I pushed it toward her. It contains everything you left me with. She looked at the red shoes, the stuffed rabbit, and the faded sign. Then she walked away without taking it. My father followed. Neither looked back. 4 days later, they signed the waiver. They gave up every claim to the house in exchange for having their debt forgiven. My father came to Elena's office alone. He signed his name, left his pen on the table, and walked out without asking about me. My mother did not come. They had returned after 18 years. And they left me for a second time. But this time, I did not stand on the porch waiting for them. Daniel remained in town for 2 days. We talked in Grandma's kitchen. He told me about his childhood. Our parents had attended every game, every school event, and every birthday. That hurt more than I expected. But I never blamed him. He had not stolen my parents. They had chosen where to give their love. I don't know how to be your brother, he admitted. I don't know how to be your sister. Can we learn? Slowly, he nodded. Slowly is fair. Before leaving, Daniel placed his number on the refrigerator. I'll call Sunday. My body became still. He noticed. What? Nothing. He left on Saturday afternoon. Part of me expected his number to stop working. Part of me expected him to disappear like they had. On Sunday, I told myself I was not waiting. At 4 o'clock, I cleaned the kitchen. At 5, I checked my phone. At 5:10, a car turned into the driveway. Daniel stepped out carrying 2 pizzas. You said you would call, I told him. I thought coming was better. For the first time in 18 years, someone who promised to return on Sunday actually did. Daniel began visiting twice a month. Then, every week. We repaired the upstairs bathroom together. We fought over music. He told me embarrassing stories about our father. I showed him the tree I used to climb when I wanted to see cars coming from farther away. He never asked me to forgive our parents. And I never asked him to stop loving them. A year later, I still owned Grandma's house. I rejected the developer's offer. Instead, I turned the empty front room into a free reading space for children from my school. Every Sunday, the kitchen filled with people. Daniel came whenever he could. Elena came with her husband. Some of my students came with parents who needed somewhere warm to sit. The house did not become valuable because someone offered $2 million for it. It was valuable because Grandma had filled it with people who stayed. I kept the yellow suitcase in the hallway closet. Not because I was waiting anymore, because it reminded me of the difference between being left and being unwanted. My parents had left me. Grandma had wanted me every single day. My mother emailed me once after everything ended. She wrote that she hoped time would help me understand their choices. I replied with one sentence, I understand them perfectly now. Then, I stopped waiting for another answer. My parents had promised to collect me on Sunday. They returned 18 years late, dressed for a funeral and searching for an inheritance. But by then, I had learned something they never understood. Family is not the person who comes back when the house becomes valuable. Family is the person who stays when all you own is a yellow suitcase. If you believe Grandma made the right decision, write "She stayed" in the comments and subscribe for more emotional stories about betrayal, courage, and the families we choose.